Hello everyone, welcome back to the homestead. So today I'm going to finally make a video that I've had an idea, it's kind of mulling around in my head for a long time. It's just a beautiful day outside, so I thought maybe we'd walk around and enjoy the day and discuss the 5 things that it seems like you never have enough of here on the homestead. So this is going to be a video on like the 5 things that I seem like I never have enough of or wish I always had more of. So this may not fit everybody's situation. So at the end of the video, if I haven't mentioned something that you feel like you always run out of all the time, go ahead and write that down in the comments below. So these aren't going to be in any particular order, but it seems like in the summertime, it seems like you're always running out of garden hose. So anytime you need to water something, you have to string out a hose from the water hydrant to wherever you're watering, whether it be a plant or an animal. And a lot of times you just don't have a water hydrant right next to what you're trying to water. We actually have been putting water hydrants in as we've developed our property. We have a total of 5 water hydrants now, but each one of them is probably a minimum of 200 feet apart from each other. Some of them are 500 or 600 feet apart from each other. And so if you need to water something somewhere in that area, you're stringing out hundreds of feet of garden hose. So I think we've got somewhere between 10 to 12 garden hoses right now. And a lot of these garden hoses just don't last very long. So you got these green garden hoses that you would buy. They're called heavy duty a lot of times. But the problem with the garden hose is that they like to kink, and they can kink in several spots. You end up fighting them, and they just end up giving you a headache. The bad thing is these garden hoses usually only last a couple years. They start to get brittle in the sunlight, and they just start getting cracks. You'll get cracks and leaks, and at that point in time, there's really no repairing them at that point in time because they're just going to keep cracking. So what I've recently started buying are these red rubber garden hoses, and these things seem to be very heavy duty. They don't seem to kink on you, and they just seem to last a lot better in the sunlight and everything. They're just a different makeup of material, better suited for being outside all the time. So as all these garden hoses that I have, as these start going bad, I think I'm definitely going to replace them with these red rubber hoses. So the next thing that I always seem to run out of is fasteners. So the problem with fasteners is that there's hundreds or thousands of different types of fasteners, so it's hard to have every type, on hand. But I've been trying my best to try to just keep the normal stuff on hand. So that would be like bolts, lag screws, sheet metal screws, nails, and like wood screws. I mean, there's so many different fasteners. It's hard to keep them all. So as far as bolts go, I've got a couple bins here that's just full of bolts. I tried to keep all the different extra size, all the different nuts and washers and the different lengths of bolts that I can. You still always end up finding a few that you don't have the right size for. I do keep a nice assortment of lag screws. I have several nails and sheet metal screws as well. I mean, and you go through all that stuff and it always seems like you're going to run out. So what I've done in the past, that one thing that I always run out of is going to be the wood screws. I do a lot of outdoor projects, so I use a lot of outdoor wood screws. And I would always go and I'd buy these little 1-pound packages of the outdoor deck screws, and this is what I would assemble most of my projects with. A lot of times I would use different sizes, 2-inch, 1.5-inch, but most of the time I would always use a 2.5 to 3-inch long screw for the big stuff. And I'd run out of those over and over. Every time you did a project, you'd be out, you'd have to go buy another box. So finally I ended up breaking down, I ended up buying the big box, right? I ended up buying the 25-pound box of screws. And overall, I mean, I'm going to go through all this, right? It'll take me a little bit of time, but I will go through it. And there's a savings in that, really. Probably you're saving a third or a half of the price just by buying 25 pounds instead of buying 25 of these little boxes. So I guess if you find a fastener that you just constantly always go through and you're buying like every month, I guess don't be afraid to buy in bulk because you're going to end up using it over time anyway. So the next thing that I don't have enough of, or I wish I had more of, is going to be trash cans. So trash cans are pretty versatile. I mean, you can use them for trash, but you can also use them for storage. So the trash cans like this one that have kind of a looser fitting lid or maybe an open trash can, those we'll use for trash, and we have them spread throughout the property anywhere we might produce trash. It's just handy to have a trash can nearby. But what we use trash cans mostly for is for storage. So we use the tight fitting lid. It needs to be a tight fitting lid trash can. We use those for storing animal feed in, to be able to store the feed where rodents won't get to it. We also use it for storing like seed. We have grass seed and hay seed that we have stored in trash cans as well. That'll keep the mice away from that as well. And I've probably got like 12 to 15 trash cans here on the homestead, and it feels like I never have enough of them. I can always use an extra trash can around here. So the next thing that you seem to never have enough of, especially in the wintertime, is going to be extension cords. So extension cords, during the summertime, it seems like I only use them to be able to run power to a power tool far away or something like that, or to maybe an electric fence charger. But in the wintertime, there's so much more that you need to run power to. So every place you have water for an animal, you want to keep that from freezing. So there's usually some kind of water heater or a heated water bucket, something like that. You're trying to run electric to all those different water troughs to keep them thawed out for the animals. And then there's always like, I'm always running extension cords like over to the tractors so that I can keep a trickle charger on the tractor and to keep it charged up in the wintertime. It just seems like in the wintertime, you have way more things that you need to power up and way more extension cords that you need to use. So a lot of times these extension cords, you may have to run several hundred feet of extension cord from wherever your plug-in is to whatever you're trying to power up. Now the problem is there's a lot of cheap electric cords out here. This is one of these cheaper electric cords. It's probably a 14 gauge wire. I think you can kind of tell from the size of the wire that this one is just a lot thinner wire. And this wire is not really good for plugging multiple extension cords into each other and running at hundreds of feet. What you're looking for is you're looking for these heavy duty cords. These ones that are got the 12 gauge wire in them. They got a lot better jacket on them. So when you're buying extra extension cords, make sure you're buying the bigger gauge wire, the heavier duty cords. So the next thing that it seems like I never have enough of and could always use extra of is going to be gloves. I never have enough gloves, and I never can find my gloves. I always misplace my gloves, and that's always an issue. I mean, I got people commenting on videos all the time saying, "Where are your gloves? Where are your gloves?" I usually can't find them. They're not laying around anywhere handy. Or you found one glove and not two, right? So I always find two left hands and no right hands. This seems to be the way it always works out. But I should always keep extra gloves all over the place. I think I should keep 1 or 2 pairs in the truck, in all the vehicles actually. I should probably keep a pair in each one in the tractors. I could definitely keep extra pairs in each one of the barns. I mean, I should have gloves everywhere in case I need them, and I just seem to never have enough gloves around here. And I mean, there's a lot of different types of gloves too. I mean, you could rubber gloves and stuff like that sometimes are handy when you're working on grease and oily things. And then in the wintertime, you're always probably going to want some insulated gloves as well. But that's one thing that I never have enough of. I love these mechanics style gloves. These are great to work in, but man, I just can't get them to last very long. So that's definitely one thing that I think every time that I go to the store, I could probably always buy an extra pair of gloves each time I go. So those are the 5 things that I always seem like I wish I had more of. In fact, I'll even tell you a 6th one. So one other one that it seems like I could always use more of is buckets. I store everything in buckets. You can haul water in buckets. You can water your animals in buckets. There's like hundreds of bucket projects out there to build things. So I could always use extra buckets as well. I mean, I could probably make a list that goes on and on, about the things that you wish that you could have more of around here. But those were probably the 5 things that I seem like I'm always running out of. And, it's probably frustrating. So there's so many things you get into in this style of life, right? So one day you may be working on like a water line. The next day you're working on a tractor. The next day you're splitting wood. You get into so many things around here, it's hard to be able to have everything you need all the time. And it is a little frustrating that you got to drive 20 minutes to the nearest town to be able to find it. But when it's all done and said, living out here in the country, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, I wouldn't trade it for the world. This is just the life that I've wanted to live for a long time. I'm finally getting to live it. So right now I'm kind of living the dream and enjoying it. So Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.